Lori Highby didn't follow a traditional path into marketing. Right out of high school, she started working full time for a web development company. At night and on the weekends, she took college courses, starting in commercial art, then shifting her focus after a sociology class sparked her interest in how culture shapes decision making. She grew up in Milwaukee. Her dad worked in manufacturing. She remembers visiting tool and die shops as a kid, early experiences that stayed with her even as her work turned toward branding, strategy, and education. In 2008, during a global recession, Lori launched Keystone Click, a digital marketing agency. She began with website development, but as her clients asked her about Google, Facebook, and digital strategy, the business evolved. Today, her agency serves manufacturers and B2B companies across the country. She's taught marketing at Milwaukee Area Technical College and UW Milwaukee. She speaks often about entrepreneurship, digital strategy, and AI. And she hosts two podcasts while continuing to build businesses. And she hosts two podcasts while continuing to build a business rooted in clarity, education, and trust. Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Bear. Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Bear. This show is where we talk to the people behind the machines, the leaders, the builders, the thinkers shaping what manufacturing feels like to work in now and in the future. If you're new here, head over to themfgconnector.com to find past episodes, our leadership podcast, Work But Make It Human, and videos from the Manufacturing Connector on YouTube. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay in the loop and see what we're up to behind the scenes. Now, let's get into today's conversation with Lori Highby. Lori Highby, welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today?
I am great. Approaching holiday weekend. You can't be wrong with that.
Yes, and I love the enthusiasm. I don't get that kind of enthusiasm out of all of my guests. Future guests, take note at the enthusiasm that Lori had in that welcome. That was awesome. Lori, yeah, we're going into a nice long holiday weekend here. So excited. Do you have any plans?
None, which I'm probably more excited about than having plans.
There comes a certain age in life that you get more excited about not having plans than you get excited about having plans.
Yeah,
And
I don't know exactly
definitely in that stage. Yeah.
when that transition happened, but I'm definitely there.
I love it. All right, Lori, you have the benefit, or I guess the punishment, depending on how you look at life, of getting this next icebreaker, the first icebreaker question, before any of the episodes that it's been on has been released. So you don't know what's coming. And I kind of love this. I might have to do this where I have a new icebreaker every 6 episodes or so, just so people don't know what's coming.
Okay.
But you get this icebreaker, and I'm really excited because it really sets us up to understand who Lori is, what you're all about, kind of sets the story arc for the episode. Lori, if your life were a movie, what genre would it be? A, what would the opening scene be? B, and who would play you? C.
Oh my gosh, there's lots to unpack there. First off, I thought immediately some sort of comedy, maybe like a rom-com or just something like there's always weird, bizarre things happening. Comedy, adventure. I would combine those two somehow.
Okay. From what I know about you, that's appropriate.
The opening scene, I feel like, involves a plane and something is happening there because I'm traveling all the time. So I feel like an airport or something along those lines. And who would play me? Oh my goodness. I have no idea who would play me. That is a great question. This is the first name that came into my head, so don't laugh at me.
No judgment. This is a judgment-free zone.
When I was younger, so I don't think if this still relates at all, but I was told I kind of look like, or Alanis Morissette, and I looked alike, whatever. I don't see it totally, but, she's had a couple acting gigs and, not a lot, but she's funky. I get it.
I dig it. I'll run with that.
Right.
Like I said, this is a zero judgment zone.
Love it.
And if Alanis Morissette is it, I take it. And I kind of want to see a photo of you in the era that people said you look like. Like, send that to me
Yeah, I don't.
if you're
We'll see.
comfortable
We'll
with it.
see.
All right, all right, all right, all right. All right, so now we know a lot more about who you are, Lori, because
Uh-huh.
that answer alone tells us you like to have fun, you travel a ton, and you dig music because not a whole lot of people pick musicians to play them in
Sure,
the movie of their life, right? So
sure. That's fair.
those are three things that I and the audience now know about you that if I hadn't asked that, you might not have even been able to verbalize. So here we are. Question number two, icebreaker number two, Lori. Before we dive into everything else, what does culture mean to you? This is a manufacturing culture podcast. We have to talk about culture at
Of
some point
course.
just to keep the title. What does culture mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Culture, I think, is it's a collective like energy and vibe that people within an organization have. Everyone's, I guess, the energy is probably the best way to describe it in the sense that everyone's motivated and working towards something. Or if there's a negative energy, like you can feel that amongst everything. So I think it's
Sure.
just the way that the undocumented kind of momentum, positive or negative, that a group of individuals within an organization has together.
I love it. That's great. If you haven't listened to the show, Lori, recently, I think I'm going to make a coffee table book about people's take on what culture is. That is book worthy. I like it. I like it a lot.
Cool.
Lori, tell us your story. I don't want the like LinkedIn bio version of your story. I want like Lori Highby to this point. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to go all the way to like when I started college. I think that's a good starting point.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I started going to school for commercial art and graphic design. And then after most of my classes, actually, I took a sociology class and I was fascinated by how things impact decisions, right? So things meaning the culture, right?
Yeah.
People, colors, brands, smells, whatever. That's ultimately marketing. You're influencing someone's decision towards an outcome of some sort. So as a creative at heart, I was more intrigued by the bigger picture of marketing and still allowing for creativity. So I pivoted and moved into more of a marketing background. Non-traditional student. I went to school nights and weekends while working full-time for a web development company right out of high school. So my entire educational career was non-traditional. And I went to school thinking I was just going to get an associate's degree because it was kind of bred into my head that from my parents that I have to go to school. Neither of my parents were college educated. My dad worked in manufacturing, so that's where my passion and love for manufacturing came in. I mean, I have great memories of going into the tool and die shops and just seeing how things were made, and I'm obsessed with that. I mean, there's TV shows called, How Things Are Made. So
Yeah.
we'll circle back to that in a little bit, though. So, yeah, I ended up working with a lot of manufacturing clients. I've always been on the agency side. I worked at two other marketing agencies prior to starting my own firm in 2008. So I worked at a traditional shop doing outdoor radio, print, kind of very traditional type of marketing. But I found, and I did that after working at the web development shop. So I thought that was really interesting. So I was doing SEO and PPC and email marketing before those were common acronyms that anyone even knew.
Sure.
So yeah, 2008, I was not necessarily excited or thrilled with the organization I was working at the time, and I believed I can do it better. Young, ignorant Lori. Also, 2008, really hard to find a job at that time. So I decided to take the leap and start my own company. Started strictly doing website design and development. People would ask me, how do I get on Google? What should I do with Facebook in my business? And I would just tell them, and then the light bulb went on. Hey, I know how to do these things. Why don't I get paid to do them for people? So we've evolved over the years to be a strategic digital marketing agency, heavily focused on the manufacturing and construction space. And I picked manufacturing, one, because my dad was in that and I grew up in that culture. Two, living in Milwaukee, heavy industrial city. And three, manufacturers do an absolute terrible job of telling the amazing stories that they are doing, how they're making the world go round.
Yep. I totally agree. That's why I started this to tell stories, right? If they're not going to tell it themselves, I'm going to have them on the show so they can tell it for me, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And your decision to go and get an associate's degree because of your parents' direction. Do you think that they were influenced because they didn't have a college degree, and that's partly why they pushed you in that direction?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And it was basically, I remember just hearing that all the time. No matter what, you're going to college, you're going to college, you're going to college. And I didn't even, they didn't know how to do that, right? They didn't even know. I didn't have student loans the first year. I worked so hard to pay money for my education, to pay cash, because I didn't even know it was an option to get a loan, my first year. So, but my parents didn't know anything about it. They were there to support and advocate in any way possible. But I'm glad you circled back to that, because I ended up realizing that I love learning. I got my bachelor's, I got my master's. I've decided to stop there.
No, Dr. Lori?
Yeah, no. Every once in a while, the idea pops in my head. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'll read a book. But I found a core value of mine is education. I love to learn, and I love to share what I've learned. I'm a big believer in you get better at something by teaching someone else it. But also, just I'm a very much a pay it forward type of person, and I don't think we should hold any secret recipes to how to get things done. Ask all the questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll talk about your values, I hope, here in a little bit. But I want to go to something else you said, in that, you started a company in the middle of a recession. A, you didn't like where you were, probably maybe a cultural issue there with that company that you left, just hypothesis. B, had to have been terrifying. I started my company 2 years after COVID-19 hit. I went full time in my company in 2022. Terrifying. Same time, it was exhilarating, but also mostly terrifying. What was it like starting a company in the middle of a global recession? I don't know how else to ask this question. How did you get the chops to be able to feel like you could do that? I mean, not a whole lot of people say, I'm unhappy with where I'm at currently. I am going to do everything possible to make sure I'm not eating for the next 6 months by
Yeah.
starting my own company.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, no, great question. And I'll plead I'll just say young and dumb ignorance to some extent as far as the state of the global economy at that time.
Sure.
So, but I did take about 6 months of planning, while I was still working full time, to kind of build out what I was doing. I had a couple kind of freelance small things that I was doing. So I knew there was some sort of a demand for the websites. And also the agency I was at was not offering the digital work. So I knew that there wasn't going to be any conflict of interest.
Got it.
But again, I was looking for a new role because of how unhappy I was, which, it was definitely cultural leadership, family owned, kind of situations that were in there. I tried whatever I could to resolve them, to make it a better environment, but it got to the point where, my husband was even like, you just need to go on your own and do this. And so he kind of was the one that said, I give you the blessing. Go do this, make this happen. So yeah, I'm very well networked. I attended a ton of events and networks and organizations locally, part of some national groups. So I did what any good marketer would do, and I literally sent a snail mail letter and an email to every single contact that I had in my mega database. So to just say, this is what I'm doing. If you are interested, or someone who's interested, reach out. And that's how I got my first 3 clients.
Wow. And it just grew from there. How big is your organization now?
There's 7 full-time employees.
Awesome.
And we are 100% remote now. So we're kind of all over the country. Thank you, COVID. And yeah, we've got clients all nationwide as well.
Awesome. That's awesome. So you did talk about lifelong learning as one of your values.
Mm-hmm.
I look at culture. We heard your take on culture at the top of the episode. My take on culture is it's simply at its most base form, and I think I said this on your show, right? It's the alignment of values between the organization and the employees who work there. So, couple pointed question here. A, what are some other values that you hold dear, and how does your organization live those values on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I love that. It's really interesting. And for some reason, it took me a while to realize my personal values are actually the values of the business, right? I don't know why it
Yes.
took a minute for that to kick in. But one day the light bulb went off. I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Education is definitely a core principle, core value in marketing, in digital marketing especially. The technology, the platforms, the tools, the approach is constantly changing, so we need to be up to date, and the way you do that is by educating yourselves and educating others.
Yeah.
Within my organization, we kind of, I would say, do our own version of EOS, right? We have quarterly rocks and whatnot. We have a business rock that everyone is assigned every quarter, and we have an educational rock that everyone is assigned every quarter. And
Yeah.
then they teach the rest of the team what they learned. So the business rocks are, more structured around the business goals and objectives, but the educational rocks are catered more to the individual. And the majority of the time, I let my team kind of pick and choose their own adventure. Sometimes it's just reading a book, and other times it's, well, there's this new video editing software I want to learn, and I'm going to do that. So yeah, that one is that's, I would say, the most important one. Integrity is really important to me. I mean, you got to do the thing you say you're going to do. And that just comes down to all of life and relationships, not just in business. And, you're going to lose a lot of credibility if you don't follow through. So
Yeah.
if you commit to something, you got to do it, or at least own up to the fact that you're not able to get it done. And so that's extremely important.
I love it.
Activity is important. No, I mean, we got to, it's really interesting with the world of AI right now, and I'm obsessed with that. And I'm sure we could talk for a million hours on that.
Yeah. Well, okay.
People are seeing it as an opportunity to be creative, but the majority of what I'm seeing is it's just kind of bland and boring because no one really knows the truth of how to really maximize the usage of the tools.
Yes.
So I think there's still a huge component of the human element in creativity that people are afraid AI is going to take their jobs. But the reality is, you went to design school or you went to journalism school, the foundation of what makes things work versus trusting the technology to just aggregate information and spit something out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a conversation months ago with a gentleman who I had asked that question about, is AI going to take jobs in manufacturing? And he put it to me like this. No, the short answer is no. AI will take jobs from people who aren't willing to adopt to AI,
correct.
but AI itself won't take people's jobs. He said it's just like when computers came out, or calculators,
Yep.
or CNC machines in our world, right? It's just another tool. If you don't adopt to the tool, then you're probably going to have a tough time, but it's not going to necessarily take jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that's my same argument, honestly. And I hear a lot of folks,
Awesome.
especially around education and schools and the adoption of AI. And I use the calculator analogy all the time. Like, we still teach kids how to do arithmetic,
Yeah.
but then we teach them how to use a calculator.
Yeah.
AI is the same thing. Let's teach them
Absolutely.
about writing, quality writing skills. Let's teach them about design skills and just strategic thinking and processing, and then teach them how to use the technology to further enhance that.
Absolutely. And I made the case, I spend time on Reddit, which may not be the best use of my time, but I spend time on Reddit. And there was a post on there talking about how somebody had gotten in trouble for using AI in a college course, and they had been flagged for plagiarism. And my argument, which fighting with people on the internet is also not a great use of my time, but my argument is that we allow kids to use calculators at home. Same principle that
Yep.
you were
Yep.
on their. We make them show their work. I mean, my 14-year-old just finished school yesterday, but as she's doing her homework, she can use a calculator. She just then has to be able to show that she knows how to get to that answer by showing her work, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So to me, why don't we allow kids to write papers using AI as a tool to organize their thoughts, to get their thoughts down on paper in a succinct and comprehensible manner, but then make them come into class and defend their argument? show that they know how to, that they're comprehending what they just wrote an essay about
Correct.
using AI, that they didn't just deep research right out of ChatGPT and have ChatGPT write it, but they actually know that subject matter. I think that there's ways that we can get through this whole like issue with AI and ChatGPT and teach young people to use it as a tool rather than vilify it and make it something that we look as a big scary boogeyman, right?
Yeah. I'm 100% on board with all of that. It's no different when I went to college and the internet was, you could start using the internet to cite your where
Right.
your research came from instead of actually going to the library and checking about about books and whatnot. I mean, I remember that was a big debacle, right? Right at
Yeah.
that time. So, but it's the same thing. You gotta validate the information and be confident in what it is that you're presenting. So don't just copy paste publish. You need to proofread it too. It's not always
Absolutely.
perfect, and validate the sources. All of that is important, but it's teaching the process and the methodology and how to use the tool so that when someone is done with school and education and they're in the workforce, they know how to leverage these tools. Otherwise, they're going to be behind where employers are expecting people to be, which is they need to
Absolutely.
know AI.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Love it. Lori, on your LinkedIn profile, which is where I pulled your bio from, on your LinkedIn profile, you have, and I'm going to read it, so bear with me, skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it has been. It's a Wayne Gretzky quote. And I love that quote as a sports fan, as a business owner, as just a human being. I think it's a great quote. How has that quote shown up in moments of your business and in moments of your life?
Yeah, great question, and one I've never been asked before. So thank you for that. One, I'm a big hockey fan. I don't know if you noticed the quote on the back wall here too. I play hockey, which is a fun fact I like to share too. Hence the reason. But especially in digital marketing, as we're talking AI, and I don't want to overuse this topic right now, but we always have to be thinking about the future. And even in business in general, when I look at my sales process, and this is something I teach account executives globally on how to be better at their job. That's another topic. But in my staff, it's what's next. After every single touch and conversation with a client or a potential client, we always have to know what's next. We can't just put an end or shut the door. I mean, I think about improv, it's yes and there's always something next. So you have to just be thinking and planning for the future at all times and not just think that there's a dead end that's approaching here.
Love that. I really do. And you just talked about teaching. You've been on countless stages. You've taught humans. You have your own podcast, which I alluded to, which I was a guest on. Great show. Anybody who hasn't heard of it, crawl out from underneath the rock you're living under. Find the broadcast, because it's such a great show. It's fun. Chris Harrington brought me on to the show. She's been on a couple of episodes here, and Lori and I hit it off, so I invited her on here. But you've been on you've been on stages, you've been on podcasts, you've taught human beings. What drives you to keep teaching others? And what does that teach you about your role in this world?
Yeah, man, you got some good questions. I'm a big believer in paying it forward. And I always like to use the analogy of first, I'm a big cook. I love cooking and I'm a big foodie, all the foodie shows. But, I watch Gordon Ramsay make a steak, right? And he walks through step by step exactly how to do it. And at the end of the day, I will never be able to make a steak as good as Gordon Ramsay. I can promise you that, okay? But I have respect for him and his process and his approach. And I've learned a lot of good things from him. And I can tell you, one time I was in Vegas and there was a Gordon Ramsay restaurant and I ordered a steak there. Okay.
Okay.
So
I
I
like it.
share that because one, I think, why there are no secrets, especially now with AI and everything is available online. So tell your story, prove your expertise. Yeah. Two, why not elevate the industry? Why not elevate those around you? The more information people have at their fingertips, the more informed decisions they can make, the better that they can be in their roles. So There's no reason to hold back any information. And at the end of the day, the more that I teach something, the better I'm going to be at it as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Another thing that jumped out at me from your bio, Lori, was that you really don't have necessarily a size of company that you work with. You work with small mom and pop type shops. You work with big businesses. My question is, how do you help both those sizes see their value? Because they're very unique in who they are as an organization. So how do you help both sides see their value, and how do you help them in this AI world rise above some of that digital noise to really make their messaging resonate with their ICP?
Yeah, that's great question. I mean, I worked with Fortune 500 global manufacturers, and that is really big, right? There's lots going on, lots of moving parts, lots of red tape, and then you've got the small mom and pop shops, or just as an entrepreneur, your heart wants to help everyone, right? Because you've been there, you know how hard it is. And then I think that's part of why I give away so much information too. So maybe someone might not be able to afford us, but maybe you've got a webinar or a blog post that just really helps them get to that next level. Because really, with the web, it should be an even playing field. As far as the type of information that you're sharing and best practices, there's a lot that you could do that is not going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to market your business and help you stand out. So again, just sharing the best practices on how to do the things makes it easier for, someone, so that maybe when they are at that stage, I've built trust with them and they're able to afford me, that I can help them. I help them for free get from here to here, but maybe now they're ready to jump up to that next stage and they can afford, my services at that level.
Lori, what are some of the impacts that you have helped some of these brands create? This is an industry that, I mean, a lot of companies in this space, especially on the digital side, think that a website is still like a static web page with a list of their machines and a list of their capabilities, right? So, what are some of the cool impacts that you've seen the work that you do in this space have on the industry?
Yeah, I love this because manufacturers, for some reason, think marketing is not a good use of time and money. And I would say that's a big miss, especially because the customer journey has changed. It's not that it is changing, it has changed. And your buyers are online. No matter what, they're online. Most of those folks that weren't, they're retired or they're just sitting in a consulting role right now. Anyways, yeah, I've got two stories that come to mind. First, there's a manufacturer here in Milwaukee who had their own homegrown website, kind of exactly, here's a list of our products. And they engaged us and they trusted us 100% to do what we felt was best. And I would say that's where we're going to have the best relationship, as opposed to challenging every single question and then you're not trusting us.
Yeah.
And so they did a great job with their managing their CRM and really keeping track of the source of new business. It was not an e-commerce site that was built, but pre-website, their old site, they were averaging about $150,000 worth of web-related sales, we'll call it. After we rebuilt the website, did all of our research around search engine optimization and positioning and everything, within 1 year, they were at around $1.5 million in web-related sales. I think that's a huge difference. The website paid for itself quite quickly.
Absolutely.
They were raving fans for very long time. The second one, and this is a fairly newer case study that we're still writing the story, but I love it.
Sneak peek. I like the sneak peek.
Yeah, global manufacturer, and they've been very slow to adopt digital marketing, but we've turned them into believers. So we've been managing their LinkedIn now for probably about 1.5 years, and they just shared recently that they have won their biggest fish ever, and they attribute it directly to a LinkedIn post that we crafted for them. And I love that. And so now we're peeling back this onion, and they know that, it wasn't going to happen magically. It was going to take time to build trust, showcase your expertise, not just look at my product, look at my people, look at our building. That one drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But adding value and educating and proving that you're the expert in what it is you're offering, that's what's going to draw people in to eventually, when they're ready to buy, reach out to you.
Yeah. I love that. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm excited to read the case study.
Yeah. Still in progress.
It comes out, Yeah, if it comes out before this episode's released, let me know. I'll
Oh, sure.
link it in the notes. I'd love to. So you talked about you play hockey. I saw on your LinkedIn profile you also do a bit of diving.
Mm-hmm.
You're a golfer.
Yep.
You brought up improv. Do you also improv?
I took a couple improv courses. Yes. So this goes back to like the adventure thing, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't sit still, and I like to try all the things, which is not a good thing. I can tell you that it gets very expensive.
But I think that those, at least the four that you have on your profile, right?
Mhm.
Hockey, diving, golf, travel in general. They're different enough, but they all provide that adventure. What do those hobbies or your hobbies outside of work provide you that work just doesn't?
Man, where do you come up with these questions?
I love doing what I do, Lori.
Yeah, no, that's great. You're great at it. What is it? I'm not in front of a screen, I think that
Yeah.
that's definitely helpful. I'm a big fan, well, obviously of adventure, of new experiences. Travel gives me a lot of the new experiences. And just being physically active, I think that's fantastic. Hockey is definitely physically active. Golf brings me out into nature. Scuba diving is nature just on a completely different level. So I just think that there's peace and some clarity, mental clarity. Yeah, what one of the things I love about hockey is like I'm just laser focused on the game. I don't have my phone with me. I'm not getting pinged with notifications, and I'm just doing the thing, and it's great exercise.
I love it. I love it. And I think as I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking about my own hobbies and the things that I love to do. And I think that there's a lot to what you said about I don't have my phone on me, right? Like when I'm golfing, my phone is in the cart, right? I may
Mhm.
pick it up if I get a notification on my watch and it's my wife calling, but for the most part, I'm not checking anything on that thing for 3.5, 4 hours. I love to hike. I love to be outside. I love to camp. Those are things that I don't have a phone in my hand, right? And so I think you just validated my own hobby. So thank you, Lori. I appreciate that.
Good hobbies. Golf is great.
Golf is great. Golf, when people ask if I golf, I say I swing golf clubs. I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily a golfer. I think you have to be good to be a golfer. I have friends who shoot in the 80s and low 90s. To me, they are golfers. I swing clubs and drink beer with those
Yeah.
people who are golfers.
I fall into the latter category myself.
Let's play golf sometime, Lori. You and
I'm
I would have a
game.
blast at it. All right, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm game.
All right. So in your journey, you've had a lot of lived experiences. Who is somebody who has shaped how you live or how you lead, either or, in your day-to-day life?
Great questions. Man, there's so many people that have had an impact, and even, mentors that you're officially my mentor, or just reading a book or getting inspiration and getting some direction in that. I mean, it's a melting pot of people, I would say, but I really I look at my dad a lot. He was very inspirational in who I was, and he was really big into community and helping others and being very active and engaged and proactive. And I find that I function a lot of that, and I find I reflect a lot about that. There's a gentleman who leads an organization that I'm very involved in, Drew McClellan, and his philosophy is to lead with love, and I've really kind of taken that into my practice. And I don't want to be a boss that yells, and I don't, I just want to, if something happened, I look at myself first, and what did I do wrong that I didn't set you up for success, right? So how can I help you do this better next time? So that's just kind of the approach that I take. So those two people really stand out, my dad and Drew McClellan.
I love it. You brought up your dad's influence and also his love of community involvement. Is that something that Keystone Click takes to heart? Is that one of the values? Are you involved in the community?
I'm probably more involved than I should be. That would be more me personally, I would
Got
say.
it.
With the business, we try. It's hard with being a remote organization,
Sure.
every year around the holidays, we kind of gamify it. I have everyone on my team pick a nonprofit, and then we do a little fun social media challenge, and whoever wins gets the biggest chunk of money thrown at their nonprofit. So yeah, from that, and we'll donate to causes and, you know, raffle items and whatnot. But I would say that as a business, that's what we're doing. But as a me, I'm way overcommitted. More people
That
know me
goes.
than I know them. So that's the pros and cons of that.
I think that goes with being an entrepreneur too,
Sure.
though. I mean,
Absolutely.
that just yeah. Um,
You got to be present,
so
right? That's, yeah.
have to be. Absolutely. So before we recorded, and you alluded to it, you just were at a conference.
Mhm.
AI took front and center stage. You said we could talk about AI for a long time. So we're going to talk about
Okay. All
AI for a
right.
little bit here.
Hold on tight.
I want to know from your perspective, from the conference that you were just at, what is going to be the way that AI helps shape culture in the industry? We are the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. Will it have that kind of an impact on the industry?
That's such an interesting question. I believe I would say there's an opportunity. Yes, you know, there's an opportunity. There's ways that you can, as long as everyone is on the same page and sharing that message as to how are we using AI, you know, the right way and the wrong way to use it. This is the process. These are the tools. This is how we adopt it, and getting everyone on the same page as we are an AI first organization or AI forward, or, you know, whatever that is, then that can be incorporated into your culture. But if you're just kind of, you know, sitting on the sidelines and just saying, sure, you can use AI, you know, maybe it's probably not going to create efficiencies. It's probably going to make it more challenging for everyone to get on the same page. I don't know if that really answers the question, but I guess that's where I'm at.
That that's your answer. Again, no judgment, no wrong answers. It's my show. I get to make the rules. What do you see as the future of marketing in the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, you know, it's storytelling is going to be more important than anything right now. And I would say, and this has always been the issue. This is why I've gone to intentionally support the manufacturing space, is because I would go on a facility tour and be like, this is amazing. How come nobody knows that you do this? You know, or I chat with the owner. He just casually tell me this amazing success story and how he saved this company a ton of money, or he found a more efficient way to get something done. I'm like, I never knew that. I mean, this is a great story. So at the end of the day, I'd say, um, storytelling is what's going to be your unique differentiator, because especially as everyone starts using AI, and I kind of touched on this already, it's bland and boring, and you have to have a unique perspective, and your stories is the first point, because no one else has lived the same story that you have lived. You have not solved that exact same problem for that exact same company or that whatever. That is going to be the most important component to make you really stand out above your competition in the manufacturing space.
That and you've had a lot of great moments. That could have been your mic drop moment there, Lori. Yeah, boom. Lori, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, LinkedIn, pretty active there, post almost every single day. Visiting keystoneclick.com to learn more about our organization. Those are probably the two best ways to do that.
Awesome. As we wrap up, final question. Nobody knows what we're going to talk about. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. What haven't we talked about that you want to share with the audience?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things we haven't talked about.
I know, but it's already been almost 45 minutes.
I know.
This has been a great conversation.
Oh, we got a 3-day weekend to get to also. I'm gonna we touched lightly on this, the customer journey, and it's tying it into AI. The customer journey is now that people are using AI technology to do their research, to figure out how to solve their problem. And what's really important now is to making sure that your brand is the one that's showing up as the solution, and understanding how your customer is leveraging these tools. What are the prompts they're typing in that says, this is my problem, I'm looking for a partner to help solve this? You want to make sure you're showing up. So
Yeah.
we have an AI optimization audit that we're offering. I didn't ask you if I
Interesting.
could share that, so I apologize.
Yeah,
You can
no,
delete
go
it if you
for it.
don't like it.
No, fuck
Yep.
that. That's awesome. I want more people to know about that.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
AIoptimizationaudit.com. is the website. I was lucky to get that URL, I'll say. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically going to look at ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude, and look at your website, and it's going to make assumptions about who your target audience is and what types of things they're going to be typing in to these platforms. And then it's actually going to go run and test those specific things, phrases into those Perplexity, Claude, and ChatGPT and show the outcome. Are you visible? Who is showing up? And here are all the things that you can do to your website to make sure you are showing up.
Okay, that's awesome. I know what rabbit hole I'm climbing into after we're done here. That's AIoutcomes.com.
AI optimization audit.
Even better. I like that better than the website that I made up for you off the cuff. Lori, this was such an awesome interview. Thank you very much for being with me today. I hope you have a great long weekend, and I hope that you're done now and you can make it an even longer weekend and just enjoy yourself. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jim. You have a good one too.
Some people start companies because they see an opportunity. Others start because they see a problem. Lori Highby started hers because she couldn't stay in a place that no longer aligned with her values. That kind of decision doesn't come with fanfare, it comes with a quiet discomfort, months of planning, and often no guarantee of success. But it's how a lot of great stories begin, not with that pitch deck, but with a boundary. What Lori's built from that decision has lasted through economic downturns, shifting technologies, and the endless noise of digital change. And what stayed constant was her clarity about who she wanted to work with, how she wanted to lead, and the kind of culture she wanted to create. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, take a minute to rate and review the show wherever you're listening. Share it with your coworkers, your friends, your boss, your team, or heck, even your grandma. She might just have the best take on culture anyway. Lori Highby, thank you for the conversation, the candor, and reminding us that there's power in walking away from what doesn't fit. To explore more stories like this one, visit themfgconnector.com and follow along on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You'll also find our leadership podcast, Work But Make It Human, and our video interviews over on the Manufacturing Connector on YouTube. Thanks for being here. Whether you're leading a team, thank you for being here. And whether you're leading a team, building a business, or just trying to do the next right thing, keep choosing the hard things that make you better. We'll see you next time.